You ever reach a point where you look at someone you raised, someone you taught right from wrong, and suddenly realize they've become a stranger? A moment so twisted that you ask yourself whether it's really happening or whether you're trapped in some cruel nightmare? Well, that's how my story begins. Imagine being ordered to kneel before someone who's been disrespecting you for months, all because your own child believed a lie so big it almost shattered the entire family. My name is Thomas Red, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived a long life, military service, hard work, raising 2 kids on a mechanic's salary, burying my wife 2 years ago, and doing my best to remain strong for my family. I've never expected special treatment. I've never demanded respect. But I sure as hell wasn't raised to kneel in front of anyone, especially not in my own home. And you're about to hear how that insane demand came to be, and how the truth I revealed afterward brought everyone to their knees, just not me. It all started slowly, the way family disasters usually do, quiet, hidden, wrapped in fake smiles and polite comments. My son, Daniel, married his wife, Zoe, 5 years ago. She was charming at first, smart, stylish, and ambitious. But beneath that polished surface was a temper sharper than a blade, and a pride as fragile as glass. She was the kind of person who needed control at all times. And if she couldn't control you, she'd twist your image until everyone believed you were the problem. I ignored the early signs. I wanted my son to be happy. Even when Zoe made comments about my old-fashioned ways or primitive manners, I brushed it off. Even when she criticized my clothes, my truck, my cooking, even my voice, I let it go. But things escalated after my wife passed. Zoe started treating me like I was a burden, a nuisance, something to be managed rather than a human being with grief and memories. She'd roll her eyes when I spoke. She'd whisper to Daniel that I needed to move on, as if grief came with a timer. She'd accuse me of forgetting things on purpose, though I remembered everything perfectly, especially the way she treated me when no one was looking. But I stayed quiet. For Daniel. For peace. For family. Then came the incident, the lie that started everything. A few weeks ago, Zoe claimed that I insulted her family during a barbecue. She said I called her parents useless freeloaders. I never said any such thing. The conversation she twisted was about how proud I was to have raised independent kids. That was it. She turned independent kids into an attack on her entire bloodline. Daniel confronted me, furious. I explained calmly, but Zoe cried loud, dramatic, attention-seeking tears, and Daniel folded like paper. From then on, she kept feeding him stories about how I undermined her, disrespected her, and needed to learn humility. Humility. That was a word she threw around a lot, mostly directed at others, never at herself. The situation boiled over last Sunday. Daniel called me and said they were coming over to resolve the ongoing tension. I didn't know what to expect, but I hoped it would finally be a real conversation. I was wrong. They arrived with a kind of cold determination that sent a chill through the room. Zoe sat down like a queen about to deliver a verdict. Daniel looked tense, angry, almost ashamed. I couldn't tell. Then Zoe spoke. Thomas, you've crossed too many lines. You've insulted me, my family, and our marriage. And since you refuse to respect me, Daniel and I have decided something. She paused dramatically. Daniel didn't meet my eyes. We feel the only way for you to show true remorse, she continued, is to kneel right here and apologize properly. The room went silent. My heart stopped. Kneel in my own living room. At 72 years old? Because of a lie. I looked at Daniel, hoping, begging that he'd say she was joking. He didn't. He swallowed hard and whispered, Dad, it's the only way to make things right. My hands shook, not with fear, but with a disappointment so deep it felt like heartbreak. Son, I said quietly, is that really what you think? He didn't answer, and then Zoe added the final insult. If you don't want to lose access to our children, you'll kneel. That was it. That was the line. Using my grandchildren as leverage. My wife used to say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And at that moment I saw exactly who Zoe was. And I realized something else. I knew a truth Zoe didn't know I knew. A truth that she thought she had buried. A truth that would flip the entire situation on its head. Because a week earlier, I received a private call from her workplace. The company's HR department asked if I could come in to verify an emergency contact issue. When I arrived, the HR representative, trying to be discreet, sighed. "We need to confirm whether you are aware that Zoe listed your address as her residence for the past year and claimed you were financially supporting her." I nearly fell out of my chair. Not only had she lied on official documents, but she essentially committed fraud using my address and claiming financial support to get a promotion that was meant specifically for employees supporting elderly relatives. I didn't expose her that day. I wanted to speak to Daniel first. But with the way things escalated, the disrespect, the lies, and now this demand to kneel, well, the time had come. I stood up slowly. Daniel looked relieved, thinking I was about to kneel. Zoe smirked, already victorious. Instead, I walked to my desk, opened the top drawer, and pulled out the HR envelope. "Before I kneel," I said calmly, "I want to show you both something." I placed the envelope on the coffee table. Zoe's face stiffened. Daniel frowned. I slid out the paperwork. "This," I said, "is what your wife submitted to her employer." I handed Daniel the form with her forged address, the fake financial dependency claim, and the signature she had practiced so well it looked almost identical to mine. Daniel's jaw dropped. Zoe went pale instantly. I can explain," she stuttered. I raised a hand. "Not finished." I handed Daniel a second paper, HR's letter stating that they had opened an internal investigation into policy violations and possible fraud. Daniel looked like his soul was leaving his body. Zoe looked like she was about to faint. "You wanted me to kneel," I said quietly, "but before I kneel to anyone, I make sure they're worthy of the respect they demand." Zoe's lip trembled. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," I interrupted. "What's a misunderstanding is you expecting me to bow down while hiding lies and dragging my son into your manipulations." Daniel finally turned to her. "Zoe, what did you do?" She burst into tears, not the dramatic tears she used to manipulate him, but the shaking, panicked tears of someone caught red-handed. I had to," she cried. "They were giving the promotion to someone else, someone who didn't deserve it. I worked harder than all of them. And your father, he wouldn't have agreed to help me if I asked." Daniel covered his face with his hands. "You lied. You forged his information. And then you wanted him to kneel?" She tried reaching for him. He pulled away. "Zoe, this is too far?" She looked at me desperate. "Thomas, please tell him I didn't mean anything by it." I shook my head. "You meant every word." The room fell into heavy silence. Then Daniel did something I never expected. He got down on his knees. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I let things get this far." I pulled him up immediately. "Son, I didn't raise you to kneel for anyone." Zoe watched in shock as Daniel stood beside me, finally seeing the truth. "Dad," he said firmly, "you will never be asked to kneel again. Not in this house. Not in mine." And for the first time in months, I felt the weight lift. Zoe tried to speak again, but Daniel stopped her. He asked her to leave the house so he could think. She stormed out, shaking with anger and humiliation. As for Daniel, he stayed with me for hours, talking, apologizing, processing everything he hadn't seen before. And I told him, respect is earned, not demanded. One thing's for sure, nobody asked me to kneel ever again. And the truth? The truth is what finally made everyone else stand up.